Welcome back, everyone, to the second half of our conversation with Dr. Robin Gaster in our Smart Talk video series sponsored by the Henry George School. And Robin has been explaining how Amazon.com, whose size and scale in the U.S. economy I think everybody recognizes, has been disrupting not only the retail industry, that's a pretty well-known story by this time, but the distribution business, which has been perhaps even more revolutionary. But we've also just heard that Amazon wasn't content to stop with distribution and has actually gone into content, which seems completely unrelated. But I think Robin's going to be telling us that maybe those links have been a lot closer than a lot of us actually suppose. And Robin, why don't we pick up where we left off with Amazon's introduction of a device that I think a lot of us, at least if we've achieved a certain age, have been waiting for a long time. As we've been watching science fiction movies and TV series, an electronic reader.
Yes. So the problem with the Kindle, introducing the Kindle, the real problem was, where do you get content? I mean, nobody will buy a device unless there's something to read on it.
Right.
So really, Amazon used its leverage in the book distribution business to push and prod and threaten publishers to to digitize their work and make it available. And they were successful. Amazon launched with about 90,000 items available and 90,000 volumes out of the 100,000 that they had originally wanted. I think that was remarkably successful. And Kindle was remarkably successful. It sold out within hours. It was far more successful initially than Amazon had expected. And one should give Amazon full credit. This was the first actual physical product they'd ever made. Right. It broke new ground in lots of different ways. It was a fairly big bet, though I think it's also fair to say that even with the distribution system we talked about earlier and the Kindle, Amazon is an incredibly innovative company, but they've never made a bet the company bet.
Right, I see.
They don't do that. What they do is they make big, judicious bets.
So had Kindle failed when Amazon had been in big trouble?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was. It opened the door to a new universe.
Okay, I see.
But the door wasn't that expensive.
Right, okay. Got it.
And the new universe undercut existing publishing in several ways. First of all, very brazenly, Bezos kept pricing secret until he actually announced the Kindle. At the time, publishers expected the Kindle to be a really excellent additional revenue source. Right. They would sell these books, same terms as before, and they would make more money. They didn't have to print the book.
Right.
Wonderful.
Sure.
Bezos announced from the stage that all Kindle books would be $9.99, less than half the price, and less than Amazon was paying for them.
How did that work?
They're just seeding the market.
I see.
They felt that the price should come down.
Right.
They felt the customer should get the benefit of the lower costs, and that they were going to squeeze the publishers and insist eventually that the publishers offer a better deal.
Now, book publishing has been around for a long time. It probably hasn't been massively profitable, except maybe certain segments of it, like textbooks, which sell for exorbitant prices. If you've got a kid in college, or if you're a college student, you know that firsthand. But it hasn't been massively profitable. I mean, people who want giga profits don't go into book, or haven't gone into book publishing. They've gone into oil or Hollywood or defense contracting or whatever they go into. So not book publishing. But it's been around for a while. Apparently the model has worked. It's proven itself. And along comes Amazon and says, we don't care about any of that. We're going to sell these books for less than you think they ought to be sold. And it works.
Yeah, well, it turns out customers really like cheaper books.
Indeed.
And Amazon has gone much further. I think it's really, let's talk about the third stage. Okay. So the second stage was Kindle. Kindle has taken about a third of the market for books. In certain genres like romance and science fiction, it's taken almost all of it.
Wow.
Or a very large chunk of it. But there's a second step to the revolution. Kindle is a distribution mechanism, right? But Amazon also saw that...
Meaning that Kindle at that point just let you read stuff that was produced by various other companies.
Yes, yes. And it was still, it was basically a parallel distribution to print.
Right.
That's fine.
Okay.
But at the other end of the process, we still had a very traditional model. The traditional model is lots of gatekeepers.
Right.
Tons of authors struggling frantically in the amoebic sea to try and get published, right? Lining up in a beauty contest with agents.
Right. And this, though, was valued, we at least it seems, was valued by customers, by book buyers, because you had vetting. No?
I don't
Really?
think
Okay.
so. No, I don't think that. I mean, that's the story. That's
Okay,
what the publishers.
fair enough.
That's what
Okay.
the publishers said. But so you have all these authors.
Right.
They get vetted by the agents.
Right.
The agents take on a few of them. Then the agents try and sell those books to publishers who take a few of them.
Right. Because they're also vetting.
They're also
in theory,
vetting,
anyway.
right? Once the book is published, it gets vetted further by reviewers.
That's right.
And by bookstore buyers.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And then finally, out of this Darwinian process, a book appears magically on the shelves of your local bookstore.
Right.
Your bookstore is finite. It has only a limited amount of shelf space. There is, and Borders and Barnes and Noble exploited that by expanding the range and focusing on bestsellers. Right. So that's how they made their money. They did great. But there's this tremendous winnowing process before you get there.
Right.
The publishers and the agents and the bookstores will say that this is a vetting process and we arrive with only the best books.
We're guaranteeing the customer's maximum quality, which they want, presumably.
Right. One would also say that there's no way to judge the quality of your unpublished book that you never got published because it got dropped somewhere along the line. So all we see are the positive end products. We don't see all the negative detritus on the floor of
we
the
don't
production.
see the opportunity cost or something like that.
Exactly. We don't. So that's the traditional model. So think now about how Amazon is blowing that up. So today, Amazon has its own self-publishing system called Kindle Direct Publishing.
Right.
All right. So if you find that you, for some reason, don't want to go to an agent, or you just want, or you can't publish your book.
Right.
Well, it used to be you were done because you couldn't publish and you couldn't distribute. You could publish kinda with a vanity press.
Right. Exactly. Right.
But you couldn't distribute.
Yes.
The bookstores wouldn't take it.
Exactly.
And where else would you go? So today you can publish for nothing through Kindle Direct Publishing. You don't have to pay them. You don't have to do a thing. You just upload your book.
Wow.
Kindle will publish it in print. They will give you 60 or 70% of the revenues instead of the rather minimal royalties you get.
Right.
And they'll do it now. Your book can be ready in 2 weeks, not 2 years. So there's no filter. None at all now. So now you as author get to go to Kindle Direct Publishing, you publish your book, and now you can distribute it through Amazon as a print book and a Kindle book.
Right.
No filter. Now you have published globally, immediately, to the distribution system that distributes half of all the books in America. Right? So on the one hand, the publishing gate has fallen. And on the other, the distribution gate has fallen. So where is the filter? The filter comes after it's published. It comes in the form of user recommendations and Amazon algorithms that tell you which books are most likely to suit you, and in the form of reviews as they used to be, you know, traditional reviews, and in the form of advertising. Amazon is becoming an important advertiser. I mean, advertising is becoming an important source of revenue on ad. So now we have this after filter, and it reaches you, the reader.
Right.
And so you search on Amazon and you find books based on recommendations or
Sure.
based on when they were published or whatever.
Right.
You have much better search capabilities inside Amazon than you do in Barnes & Noble, by the
Sure.
way.
Sure.
So what does this mean? It means that the traditional gatekeeper
Right.
role is dissolving.
Right, and it sounds like the book industry has become, you might say, 100% free market, 100% democratic, rather than the previous, you might say, feudal structure where the lords of Random
Exactly,
House and
yes.
scriveners would essentially decide what certainly the American public read.
Yeah. Yes, though I am slightly concerned that we have erected a new and permanent overlord in the form of Amazon's algorithms and Amazon's recommendation structure and how Amazon decides to present your work. And there is really no competition and no accountability.
Although it seems that Amazon, just as Jeff Bezos started out with books, even though he didn't care what was in them and didn't care about content at all, it seems that Amazon doesn't really care about content now.
I think that's fair. I mean, look at Amazon Video for a second.
Okay.
Amazon Video started really as a way to attract people into Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And they got 7 Emmys last year.
Right.
They make good products.
Sure.
They don't measure it based on markets.
Right.
They measure it based on how many people they attract into Amazon Prime.
So once again, this was the flytrap model.
The flytrap model. No, in a very deep way, Amazon does not care about content. They will sell anything.
Okay. Right.
And they just don't care. But it's possibly, not necessarily, but possibly a mistake to believe that such an open marketplace is not tilted. Right? We don't really Amazon is a very secretive company.
Right.
They don't tell you anything about how that particular book popped to the top of your search list.
I see.
There are tendencies and tilts inside the Amazon ecosystem that we can't even describe because they won't tell us anything about it.
Right.
So
it's also possible, at least from what I've heard about various authors' experiences before Kindle, when Amazon was simply retailing books, but it had this reviewing system where critics or just somebody who didn't like that author, who had some kind of a grudge, could organize some kind of a smear campaign and really drive down sales.
Yeah.
And presumably that's just as possible now.
it's just as possible now. It's harder. I mean, it's the same problem that Yelp faces and that any
that's
recommendation
right.
system
That's
faces.
Right.
I imagine that Amazon has fairly sophisticated algorithms to try and root that out. But we do know that Amazon has a pretty big problem elsewhere with counterfeit goods and with and in the book business, by the way, with counterfeit goods for expensive textbooks and things like that. There are people who just rip off the book and publish it as their own. So Amazon has problems with that. But I don't see any way in which Amazon is itself tilting the world. These other things, I mean, I guess there are smear campaigns, but on the other hand, in the previous world, all you needed was one bad review from the New York books.
That's right.
And that was it.
If you had crossed some reviewer, I guess, earlier in your life, and he wasn't so transparent about whatever grudge he might have had about you.
Yeah. So I think it's also, we need a note of caution here. We are, I think, we are potentially in the middle of an extinction event for publishers.
Right.
That's a very dramatic and overstated way of putting it, but if you're in an extinction event, I guess you probably can't see it. And to me, the self-publishing model has some profound advantages for authors.
Right.
And it has profound advantages for Amazon. If it has disadvantage for the publishers, I don't think anyone cares.
I don't think anyone cares in terms of their simple book buying selves, but there are some pretty important questions raised about what happens to our society and what happens to our culture, because as tempting as it might be to make fun of the so-called lords of publishing,
Right.
who occupy these steel and glass towers here in Manhattan and essentially decide what the American public reads, it's not very democratic. They're not all that accountable, it seems, but certainly great editors in previous eras in their vetting function, like Maxwell Perkins and Robert Gottlieb, have given us authors like Thomas Wolfe and F. Scott Fitzgerald. And I'm wondering...
Though I would point out...
They've given us Jacqueline Suzanne too, but...
No, it's not that. It's that we have no idea who they didn't give us.
True.
You know, H.G. Wells had his entire bedroom pasted
with rejection
slips. He didn't
that
publish
sounds like my
anything-
bedroom.
Didn't publish anything until he was in his 30s.
Right.
Okay, well, I guess they got that one wrong.
Right.
And they're probably got a lot of other ones wrong.
Probably,
So,
right.
I don't think you could say they gave you those authors, right? Those authors got through the gatekeeping process. But they were already out there writing and living before they ever started.
Some were and some weren't. Some were genuine prodigies, and at least the story goes, and I personally find it convincing, their genius was recognized by someone who was qualified to do so.
Yes. And I'm sure that's true. I mean, that's true in Hollywood
but like
too,
you said,
right? Lana Turner.
There must be so many undiscovered geniuses who, for whatever reason, didn't come to their attention.
Right. And so I guess at this moment, first of all, the world is not going to go self-publishing instantly. This is a process. It's going to take years, if it happens at all. I'm just suggesting, it's not impossible that it will happen. In any event, Amazon will very happily continue to hoover up more and more of the book business money in every direction. So, if you're in publishing, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, because if people don't self-publish and they go through you, you're going to keep less of the money anyway.
Right. Now, Amazon is now publishing books.
Yes.
Might it start to engage in the same kind of activity with other media forms, magazines, television shows? They're into movies already, you've said.
They have TV shows.
They have TV shows. That's how far behind the curve I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have pretty successful TV shows.
Okay. And yet they don't care about content.
They care about the content as a magnet. I mean, that's what it's for.
Okay.
Magazines, I think they would probably, it would surprise me if anyone at Amazon actually recognized what a magazine was. Those days are done.
That's a good point. If you look at whatever's left of the newsstand versions of something like Time magazine, assuming it even exists anymore, Newsweek is gone, we know that. Those used to be giants of American journalism.
Right.
And they're reduced to now websites.
Right. Well, the modern world is to get your news electronically.
Right.
And unless you have a very strong brand like The Economist or somebody, or Wired maybe. Though I find Wired illegible, but...
even Mad Magazine is gone by the board. So.
Yeah, so why would Amazon get into magazines?
Right.
They have magazines on their audiobooks. They own audiobooks, by the way. They bought that. They bought Audible.
Okay.
So the other segment... no, why would they bother? I think they're more interested and excited with the thought that Alexa is going to become your storyteller.
Right.
Why not? Why not? Exactly. So, in the end, we don't know whether this self-publishing revolution will fully work.
Right.
It works together really well with ebooks.
Right. Right.
So it has absolutely happened for romance books and science fiction books, which used to be important segments for mainstream publishers
Sure.
and no longer are.
Right.
They've really been taken over.
Well, Robin, before we come to an end, let's try to look into the future a little farther. What's next for this behemoth? What would you suspect Jeff Bezos has his eyes on right now?
Well, you know, they're expanding in lots of different directions. Anywhere where there is money to be made, customers to serve, and a place where their existing businesses provide leverage.
Right.
So I'll give you a couple of three or four examples. Sure. They're finalists for a $10 billion contract to provide internet services to the Defense Department.
Right, that's right. Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with individual customers,
Right.
but it leverages AWS.
Yes.
A year ago, they bought something called PillPack. PillPack delivers your medication
right.
pre-dosed to your home. Right? Essentially, it cuts out CVS. And they bought it for $1 billion. It leverages their distribution network.
Right, sure.
Right?
Sure.
So they can just send this other stuff over the distribution network. It's cheap, it's effective. If I was CVS, I would be really worried.
Sure.
A week ago, they announced that they were going to allow Prime members to get free delivery on every product down to $1. So if you want to order one toothbrush for $1, Amazon Prime will deliver it tomorrow free.
Can't beat that.
The dollar stores are worried.
Sure, sure.
And that's all there is left in some places.
Oh, sure,
Right?
exactly.
So,
That's right.
so that's a third one. Well, then think, you know, more. Amazon has a very large experiment going in healthcare on their own employees.
It's hard to imagine how you can improve the American healthcare system.
Right,
but-
it is hard, but Amazon has 500,000 employees.
Right.
So they can test out different models of how to deliver care. We partnered with Berkshire Hathaway to do this and
Right.
JP Morgan to do this. Who knows? Maybe Amazon Care is coming. Maybe Bank of Amazon is coming. So the real problem, the fundamental problem with Amazon is I love Amazon. Amazon is brilliant.
And obviously hundreds of billions of Americans do too.
Absolutely. It is absolutely the best thing ever invented for customers.
Right.
It is absolutely unbeatable for customers. But we are all producers. And Amazon's customer brilliance is built on basically
Smashing
a pretty
producers.
ruthless exploitation
Right.
of producers in every direction.
Right.
How do we manage their brilliance so that it works for us and deal with the problems posed by the rest?
Well, I think on that very profound and very daunting question, we're going to bring our session to a close. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today with these very provocative thoughts.
Right.
I'd like to thank everybody who's been watching, and we hope to see you again soon for the next edition of the Henry George School Smart Talk series. Thank you, and thank you, Robin, again.
Thank you. It's
Okay.
great.